Welcome to NTD News. I'm Holly Kellum. Here are today's top stories. As a deadline for Washington and Pyongyang's denuclearization talks draw near, the Department of Defense released various images of U.S. and South Korean joint military drills. Russia said it would retaliate against the U.S. after the U.S. signed legislation to sanction companies and people involved in a gas pipeline being built from Russia to Germany. The U.S. military has a custom of tracking Santa Claus on his travels around the world. It's a popular website that tracks Santa's sleigh and reindeer in real time. And electric cars and self-driving cars are changing the way people commute. The technology of this year and last year brought new ways of getting around. The U.S. released footage of military drills with South Korea as tensions with North Korea ratchet up ahead of a year-end deadline. The drills simulate the infiltration of an enemy facility and have been decried by North Korea in the past as a rehearsal for war.
Photos of the exercise at a base in southwestern South Korea showing U.S. and South Korean commandos leading a man out of a building with his hands tied behind his back. A South Korean official said the drill was designed as a hostage rescue operation training as part of a counterterrorism drill conducted quarterly. The rare release of the photos comes ahead of a year-end deadline set by Pyongyang for Washington to soften its stance in nuclear weapons talks. South Korea's newspaper Chosun-ilbo, which first reported the training, said the drills were intended to simulate a scenario to capture North Korean executives. Tension has been growing in recent weeks as North Korea conducts a series of weapons tests. Earlier this month, President Trump said the U.S. reserved the right to use military force against Pyongyang.
Business Insider asked 2,000 adults to choose the 5 rudest cities in the U.S. A majority said New York City. About 30% of respondents chose the Big Apple, while L.A. took second place at almost 20%. The poll did not say why most people chose New York City, but Business Insider said stereotypes and sports rivalries may have had a lot to do with it. Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., Chicago, and Boston rounded out the top 5. And an aviation expert talks about the deadly MAX 737 debacle and what could come next for the company. Boeing CEO resigned yesterday over the crisis that damaged its reputation as one of the stalwarts of American industry.
Boeing CEO Dennis Muilenburg stepped down on Monday. The company's board said a change in leadership was needed to restore confidence. It's working to repair relationships with regulators and others. An aviation expert says Boeing has been overly optimistic repeatedly and not forthcoming about some of the severe challenges it faced.
It's gradually kind of become evident that there's been an element of non-disclosure of this, and that's all kind of pointing to him, unfortunately.
He says he's surprised at the news of Muilenburg's departure, expecting that he would stay on through the crisis and then pass the baton. The MAX was grounded worldwide after the 2 disasters, one in October 2018 off the coast of Indonesia, the other in 2019 in Ethiopia, killed 346 people in all. Schwederman says the halt of the production will hit people's pocketbooks come summer.
Now the problem in terms of airlines is less about those planes that are grounded, more about all the planes that should have been delivered and flying, and they just measure in the thousands.
Boeing said Muilenburg will depart immediately, and the board's current chairman, David Calhoun, will take over as CEO on January 13th.
The Russian government has vowed to retaliate against the U.S. for sanctions on its pipeline to Germany, work on which was suspended on Saturday.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said Russia would respond to U.S. sanctions on its Nord Stream 2 pipeline. President Trump signed legislation last week that provides for sanctions against those involved with the vessels laying the pipeline. The pipeline is set to go under the Baltic Sea from Russia to Germany. The move prompted a Swiss company that operates ships laying sections of the pipeline to suspend work. Russia's Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev said he tasked the cabinet with looking into possible restrictions against the U.S.
Such steps always provoke reciprocity. How and when it will be done remains a question of Russia's national interests, when it will be more suitable for Russia's national interests.
The U.S. has been an outspoken opponent of the pipeline. It will allow Russia to transport natural gas about 750 miles directly to Europe, bypassing Ukraine. Russia has been known to cut off gas supplies during political spats with other countries. The Trump administration has said this is an issue of energy security for Europe and warned that it's being pushed by Russia to advance its geopolitical agenda. The German government said it considered the sanctions an interference in Germany's domestic affairs. However, German Chancellor Angela Merkel made it clear last week that Germany isn't considering retaliation against the sanctions. She said there is no alternative to conducting talks.
As part of a movement in California to reduce waste, some cafes are eliminating single-use paper and plastic cups.
First plastic bags, then plastic straws, and now coffee cups. Perch Coffee Shop in Oakland decided to stop using disposable cups after they were found in a lake across the street from the cafe. Now, customers who don't bring their own mug can buy a refundable glass jar for 50 cents for coffee to go. An environmentalist organization says many consumers assume coffee cups get recycled or composted, but most are actually burned.
It's a heck of a lot of disposable cups not winding up in the landfill.
Oakland-based Blue Bottle was the first major coffee shop chain to eliminate disposable cups as a pilot in some stores. It estimates it will save about 12 million paper cups every year. They expect to lose some business because of the change, but it might also help them save money.
You know, the most expensive part of many drinks is actually the cup itself and not actually the beverage going inside of it.
A group that advocates for people with disabilities has opposed the idea. They say glass or ceramic mugs are too heavy or slippery for people with limited mobility. They are asking cafes that eliminate single-use cups to keep a few paper cups on hand for those who need them.
Hong Kong marked Christmas Eve with tear gas on the streets and chaotic scenes at shopping malls as police clashed with protesters. More demonstrations are expected through the holiday season.
Riot police fired tear gas on Christmas Eve, dispersing pro-democracy protesters. Thousands of demonstrators gathered together, many wearing reindeer horns to mark the festive season. Police threatened protesters with pepper spray during the scuffles. Several rounds of tear gas were fired out the front of a hotel after 9 p.m. Police have arrested more than 6,000 people since the protests escalated in June.
According to one cybersecurity firm, a hacking group linked to the Chinese regime has resumed its global attacks, stealing data from companies and government agencies. NTD's Penny Zhou has more from a cybersecurity expert on the bigger picture of China's information war against the U.S.
The Chinese hackers are coming back. Cybersecurity firm Fox IT issued the warning last week. The firm reported that in the past 2 years, a hacking group reportedly working for the Chinese regime has been targeting companies and government agencies from 10 countries, including the U.S. The report identifies the hacking group as APT-20, also known as Violin Panda. This Chinese group was active during 2009 to 2014, but has since gone quiet. This time, they were found stealing passwords from American and European companies in aviation, finance, healthcare, energy, and more. Cybersecurity expert Casey Fleming said he is not surprised by the report. He said the Chinese regime is known for hiring hackers. It's part of their ongoing strategy to compromise competitors in enemy states without shedding blood.
The Chinese Communist Party for years, for decades, and it's peaking now of them stealing innovation, intellectual property, sensitive data, trade secrets. Just basically you run everything that you run your company on, they're stealing that, and they have done a perfect job in doing so.
In 2014, 5 Chinese officers were indicted for stealing business secrets and intellectual property from U.S. firms. Last year, the department charged 2 other Chinese hackers linked with the regime for stealing secrets from the U.S. Navy.
They're achieving military gains through non-military methods.
Chinese IP theft is estimated to cost the U.S. economy tens of billions of dollars each year.
So it's a form of war that every company is in, whether they want to be in or not.
Researchers say the hacker's nationality is easy to detect. Sometimes they type in simplified Chinese, and when they realize they've been caught, they curse in Chinese slang. Reporting by Penny Zhou, NTD News.
New Zealand police New Zealand police said they suspended the search today for the bodies of 2 people who went missing following a deadly volcanic eruption earlier this month.
On Tuesday, New Zealand police ended the search for 2 people still missing following the deadly volcanic eruption on White Island early this month. Their bodies are believed to have been swept out into the ocean. Both a 17-year-old Australian tourist and a 40-year-old New Zealand tour guide are presumed dead. The police say they've delivered the news to their families, but assured them that they stand ready to act if any new information arises. The official death toll in the disaster has climbed to at least 17. Another injured victim died in an Auckland hospital over the weekend. In the wake of the tragedy, questions have risen over why tourists were allowed on an island with an active volcano. Last week, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said official inquiries by coroners and work safety regulators into the eruption could take up to a year.
As I've said many times, there remain now questions to be asked and questions to be answered. As you'll know, on the 10th of December, WorkSafe opened a health and safety investigation into the harm and loss of life caused by the eruption. WorkSafe can prosecute for breaches of the Act, and penalties and criminal sanctions range from $50,000 to $3 million and up to 5 years in prison.
The tragedy is expected to spark changes to the country's thrill-seeker tourism industry.
5 people were hospitalized early this morning when a promotional event ended in a stampede. Shoppers at a mall in Sydney gathered, hoping for some bargains, but many ended up with bruises.
Crowd of excited shoppers, a promise of free stuff. The result is chaos. A promotion in a busy mall in Australia went horribly wrong on Christmas Eve, sending 5 people to the hospital and more in need of medical attention. The crowd, including children, push and shove for the best position underneath the held-up balloons. Shouts and the odd scream is heard. The frenzy is mounting. A stressed-out mother, shaking her head in disbelief, tries to pull her child up out of the squeeze. They are trapped. Those on the edges push towards the middle. Those in the middle have nowhere to go. A crush. As the balloons fall down, the sea of arms crash into a barricade like a wave hitting the rocks.
It was mayhem. All I know was that people were getting crushed, and it was really bad because there were people injured.
The ultimate mega balloon drop gathered shoppers at midnight. The balloons contained gift vouchers and discounts. Shocked witnesses criticized the poor planning of the event.
I think it's a bit dangerous considering kids are around and elderly people are around, and it's already chaos as it is for Boxing Day and Christmas.
The mall owner's Center Group said that its team acted swiftly to support its customers, contact emergency services, and make the area safe. Local media reported that some shoppers suffered chest, neck, leg, and back injuries. Their attempts to grab a discount came at a cost.
In Indonesia, a rescue operation continues today after a bus plunged around 500 feet into a ravine last night. The bus landed in a river, killing at least 26 and injuring about a dozen more.
Local television shows the bus partially submerged in a river in the South Sumatra province. Rescuers are working to retrieve the bodies of passengers that fell almost 500 feet as the bus careered off the road above. The horrific crash in Indonesia killed at least 26, injuring about a dozen more. Relatives gather at the hospital to find loved ones and identify the bodies. The bus was set to be overloaded with around 50 passengers. It plunged into the ravine on Monday evening, landing in the river. The cause of the accident is not yet known. Traffic accidents are known to be commonplace on highways in the archipelago. Some public vehicles in Indonesia also lack safety instruments. Authorities are conducting further investigations.
Up next, how you can save on your water bill without sacrificing comfort. Simple tips to keep more money in your pocket and save resources. That and more after the break.
It was special for us.
Bring your family, let your children experience this.
I know my daughter just loves it. When the curtain first opened, I looked out at her face and she was amazed by what she saw.
It's great for the whole family.
And I have a granddaughter. I want her to see something like this because it'll probably enrich her soul and her development as a person. It would change her life.
It's hard for kids to listen to parents all the time, but when they hear it from an outside influence as well, reinforcing your values, that's great.
Oh, it's so beautiful. And her birthday was Friday, so we surprised her with tickets.
I was just so amazed. They're amazing, amazing dancers.
The girls are so elegant and beautiful, and the colors are amazing.
It's just amazing. It's truly breathtaking. Just the story. There's a story behind everything as well, which is amazing. There's so much culture.
It's a bridge between meditation and peace and where we are now in our busy lives.
As an adult and a teacher, it's awesome to see kids reacting and having that positive reaction to the show.
I will see it next year and year after that and the year after that. It is just incredible, absolutely beautiful.
I wish I could see it again, like right now.
Water heating is one of the biggest expenses in your house. That's according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration. And as the temperatures drop this winter, chances are your bills will get higher and higher. Here are some simple tips to keep the cost low.
If you want to save on your utility bill, cut your hot water use. Using hot water to shower, do laundry, and the dishes is one of the biggest expenses for households. But you don't have to sacrifice comfort to save. Saving is as simple as taking a shorter hot shower and shutting off the water while you soap up. But there's more you can do. Consumer Reports says these 3 tips can help you lower your hot water bill. Tip number 1, don't rinse dishes before you put them in the dishwasher. It's not energy efficient, and experts say all you really need to do is just scrape food off. Tip number 2, use cold or warm water for your laundry. Consumer Reports says their tests show clothes still get clean. Also, use the washer's faster spin cycle for less drying time. And tip number 3, buy energy-efficient appliances. Consumer Reports says Energy Star washing machines and dishwashers use 33% less water than standard models. And as a bonus, new dishwashers are much quieter these days.
Self-driving and electric cars are bringing changes to the way people commute. Here's a recap of what the car industry brought us this year and last.
You can take a classic Lyft ride or a shared Lyft ride or a self-driving ride.
Aptiv and Lyft use artificial intelligence and self-driving technology. The taxi service has attracted almost 30,000 paid rides in Las Vegas since it launched nearly 2 years ago. Commercial car manufacturer Daimler Trucks brought in its Level 2 self-driving system at the start of this year. Level 2 means having double aspect driving assistance, such as both steering and acceleration. In London, around 2,500 of the world's famous black taxis were electrified in July, following the launch of the battery-powered taxi cab last year.
This cab is helping me do my job in as much as it's so much easier and nicer and pleasant to drive.
But drivers claimed there was still a lack of infrastructure to support the new vehicles, particularly charging points across the capital. So what about the future? The race to build a practical and safe flying car is on. Japanese electronics giant NEC unveiled its prototype outside of Tokyo in August. The company has bold ambitions for flying cars to be zipping around cities by the 2030s, although big hurdles like battery life remain.
A satellite company captured a decade's worth of some of the most important events around the world. The images captured from space highlight the advance in satellite imaging technology.
Satellite imagery company Maxar Technologies released images of a decade of important events captured from space. There is a 2010 Deepwater Horizon oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico and the construction of Apple's spaceship headquarters in Cupertino, California. There are images of last year's destructive wildfires in California and Texas before and after flooding from Hurricane Harvey. Over the past 10 years, the growth in commercial satellites has brought the price of images down sharply. Advances in technology have also made it possible to get high-resolution images from many parts of the world almost instantly, even on a phone.
Up next, millions of lights make Christmas at one London garden a magical experience. Stay tuned to see the lights of Kew Gardens after the break.
When you look at TV networks in America, a soundbite and fight-it-out culture prevails on news and commentary programs. As a Canadian, I'm fascinated with America, and I wanted to offer American thought leaders an opportunity to share their thoughts in a deep dive format where we can explore their ideas together. And so American Thought Leaders was born. The world's most brilliant thinkers believed that open discourse was the key to greatness. However, all around the world, we see that discourse is being stifled and political agendas have subverted media. The Epoch Times launched its Global Thought Leaders program to bring back this great tradition of free thought. As the host of American Thought Leaders, every week I interview some of the most intriguing minds on the most pressing issues of our time. Be sure to check out our new episodes every week.
Viewers have described China Uncensored like The Daily Show, but about China.
At the beginning, I was super excited when I got 500 views, and now the show's grown to about 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. One episode reached 7.9 million people. I'm a little freaked out that that many people have seen my face. In 5 years, I see China Uncensored as the sole source of edutainment worldwide.
The U.S. military kept up its Yuletide tradition today of tracking Santa Claus on his sleigh.
The website lets you track Santa's worldwide journey as he travels. Some 1,500 volunteers, both civilian and military, man the computers and a Santa hotline. The tradition started by chance in 1955 at a Sears Roebuck in Colorado Springs. The store ran a newspaper ad inviting kids to call in and speak to Santa, but there was a typo in their phone number. So instead of phoning Sears, the kids reached the Continental Air Defense Command. The commanding officer there fielded calls from many eager children hoping to speak to Old St. Nick. He assured the children that Santa had taken off from the North Pole and was delivering gifts to good girls and boys around the world. The Santa tracking tradition continued from then on. It now uses social media and mobile apps to spread the word on Santa's whereabouts.
The lights at London's Kew Gardens marks the start of the city's festive countdown to Christmas. More than 1 million lights illuminate the Royal Botanic Gardens, providing an after-dark spectacular to get even the most hardened Scrooge feeling the Christmas spirit.
Opening its gates after dark on a cold evening, the Royal Botanic Garden at Kew invites visitors to enjoy a mesmerizing light show. Christmas at Kew is running a new trail through its vast grounds this year, promising a completely different experience. Many of Kew's favorite natural landmarks are lit by colored lights, making them appear even more magical. Dara Basra is the head of event operations at Kew Gardens. She's been involved in the planning of the event for more than a year. So what is her favorite installation?
I think Treetop Walkway is probably the standout show this year for me. It's a 18-meter high waterfall on our Treetop Walkway, as well as a sea of lights at your feet. Completely immersive experience. You stand in the middle of it and it's just absolutely mesmerizing.
One of the most interactive installations is the Vines by Mandy Lights, a 100-foot-long promenade lit by 30,000 color-changing pixels, which dangle across the path of the visitor. Another popular light installation was the Cherry Tree Walk, which provides an early spring bloom for Kew's bare cherry trees. The centerpiece is the historic Palm House at Kew Gardens, lit by a dramatic laser light show. Christmas at Kew runs until January 5th.
Coming up, what cast and crew from the latest Frozen movie are doing for Christmas. A peek into their Christmas traditions, some old and some very new. That and more after the break.
Our investigative reporters at the Epoch Times have spent 18 months uncovering the biggest political scandal in modern history. We connected the dots around Spygate, the actions by Obama-era officials against Trump's 2016 presidential campaign. Join me on Declassified as we bring you up-to-date developments on this unfolding scandal.
In Germany, millions of locals and tourists flock to Frankfurt's Christmas market. NTD's Evelyn Lee has more on what draws so many people every year.
The Frankfurt Christmas market is one of Germany's largest and oldest. It's a custom that dates back to the 14th century. Over time, it's become a festive tradition that kicks off the holiday season.
And whereas people back in the day would come here to trade and purchase their supplies right before winter really hit them, today the entire city comes out to take a stroll, drink wine, but above all, eat lots and lots of good food. So let's take a look.
The air is filled with the scent of sugar-roasted almonds, grilled sausages, and gingerbread. Christmas delicacies like these attract people to stop and taste. Mulled wine is popular. Nowadays, there are many different varieties.
This is an absolute must-try, and I guarantee it, you can find it on every single German Christmas market there is.
Our wine is made by a special company according to our specific seasonings.
He says the wine is heated in this large pot to about 104 degrees. The large rock of sugar above is topped with rum, then lit. The blue flame melts the sugar into caramel that drips into the wine below. Citrus and lemon are then added to give it its special flavor. And if food isn't your thing, there are plenty of Christmas decorations and traditional German crafts. Located in the city center, the Christmas market draws around 3 million visitors from all over the world. Evelyn Lee, NTD News, Frankfurt.
With Christmas here, it can be fun to see how different people celebrate. Here are some of the traditions from the stars of Frozen 2.
For Adina Menzel, the voice of Elsa in Frozen, her favorite holiday tradition is collecting ornaments.
I started collecting ornaments for a bunch of years now, and anywhere I am in the world, and just so that I can sort of encapsulate the memories, and then I get to take them out of the box and explain to my son where they come from.
For Josh Gad, who voices the lovable snowman Olaf, his favorite tradition also involves ornaments, among other things.
I'm so excited about putting up the ornaments. I'm so excited about putting the lights around the house. And more than anything, I'm so excited about getting to sit with my family and just enjoy the season.
As for actor Jonathan Groff, who voices Mountain Man Kristoff, his favorite pastime involves food.
Probably eating my mom's pumpkin pie is my favorite festive tradition.
And the directors behind the Frozen franchise each have their own family tradition.
The crackers. We didn't do those before. Now, because of him, we do the crackers, and I love that.
We make a Christmas Eve pizza. Everybody comes over and they get to make their own pizzas, so that's our tradition.
Yeah.
Turns out celebrities celebrate in much the same way we do, spending time with family, eating, and decorating.
Thanks for tuning in. Join us again tonight. I'm Holly Kellum.